Now we move on to the next item, which is an ordinance amending the municipal code of the City of Ozark, Missouri, section 405.070 and 405.360 and 405.510 to add zoning regulations related to data centers. And Randall, you're up.
Yes, sir.
Already.
Thank you. Good evening. I just want to share, first of all, this is predominantly the same presentation we made last month, save for a few changes, some of which you all recommended, so we've made a few edits. But by and large, this is the same thing we presented to the Board of Aldermen once before, and you all. So I want to start off by saying and kind of clarifying, at this point, we have no applications for a data center. We have no proposals, no inquiries, no anything like that. And I can also share, I talked to the county this afternoon, and there is no applications, proposals within our immediate surrounding areas, immediately surrounding Ozark. For that matter, there's nothing countywide. So we're well ahead of the curve as far as we know at this point, but I just want to put that out there right away. So some of our legislative goals is really to permit data centers in the right scale, in the right function, in the appropriate place. And these regulations will do that. So one of the first questions we get is why not just write an ordinance that prohibits data centers altogether if there's such a concern? So the obvious answer is the prevailing guidance is that by creating a process where we create a path, we're still preserving some due process. We're creating an opportunity to ensure that if a data center does want to come in and it's right for the community and it fills a need, then we've created and we've covered all those negative impacts through this ordinance, and we've offered a path, and hopefully we've kind of dealt with any potential legal issues that could come with that by denying an opportunity for a data center to be at least considered by the Planning Commission and the Board of Aldermen. But ultimately, we are concerned about neighbors, we're concerned about the community, and obviously the environment. So this ordinance, by and large, addresses that. So we could pass it again. We could pass exclusionary zoning, but we don't think that's the best route to go. This ordinance provides some fair certainty. Fair certainty basically says if you're an applicant, if you're a neighbor, you're the commission, the Board of Aldermen, you have a fair degree of certainty of what's to be expected. If a proposal comes in, what are the things that are going to be considered? What are the conditions that are going to be contemplated by you all? And the neighbors know what going into it, what's going to be there. So this ordinance would provide that level of comfort. And again, this is a proactive effort. We don't have anything in that's proposed at this time, but given the nature of data centers and technology, it's an evolving field, if you will. It's something we need to stay ahead of. This is going to be a challenge. I think things are getting smaller. They're getting more complex. Servers, data, anything technology-wise is going to be something that we're constantly going to be dealing with. So you may see this return to an agenda soon as things change. But so I shared this last time. This is just a glimpse into what maybe a data center could look like. These things come in all shapes and sizes. This is obviously a very big one. The photo on the right are what servers are, and that's basically what's inside these things. They take up an area somewhere between 6 and 8 square feet each, depending on what kind of data they're serving, that they're managing, whether it's AI data or just banking data, health data, that kind of thing. Depends on how much heat they put off, and it changes the dynamics of a data center. So these things can be very small too. The photo on the left is the data center here in City Hall. It's just a cabinet, but you can see it has its own dedicated cooling system because they do put off a tremendous amount of heat, even this one. The photo on the right is a small data center here in Ozark up on J Highway. It basically serves a banking institution. There's nothing else in this building. This would not really qualify by our new definitions or proposed definitions, but this is a small facility. I think this is 2,000 square feet. It's dedicated to nothing but banking data. It's kind of innocuous. People drive past it every day. It doesn't put off a lot of noise, or any for that matter. It's just a part of the environment that we're in. So it's kind of a good example. I think I shared this last time. We're what we consider a moderate risk here in the Ozarks or Southwest Missouri, and that's primarily because Springfield's the 3rd largest city in the state. We're a metro area, so that puts us at a reasonable risk. So this is why we're trying to get ahead of it, proposing legislation before somebody comes forward. So currently, if a data center were to come to us as of right now, we would put them in the category they probably need to locate in an industrial district or an I-1 district, and that would be allowed by right. So they wouldn't have to go through a conditional use permit or anything like that. We have limited design controls other than setbacks and buffer yards, and those things are dictated by what zoning and uses are surrounding that property. It could be allowed right now, just like the one here, or at a school, a bank, anywhere as an accessory use, and that's in a commercial district or a manufacturing district or general mixed use, anything like that. The city does have some protection from our urban service area agreement with the county and the surrounding tiers of those. But the greatest threat is honestly if they tried to come into the city, found an industrial piece of property, and we don't have any regulations to guide that development proposal. And I will share too, we've looked at our zoning map, and as of right now, it's tough. There's not very many properties that are zoned industrial that would work well for this. There's not very many properties that we've identified in our comprehensive plan or our future land use for industrial development where the geometry and the logistics of the site would work well either. So with these regulations, it would be tough for somebody to find just the right property for a large scale data center. Our recommendation kind of moving forward is to basically establish a definition of data centers, and we're doing that in 3 tiers or 3 different sizes, establishing districts where they're allowed, and then establishing that it's allowed by conditional use permit rather than just as a permitted use, and then establishing a process for review and approval of those that helps with design and mitigation of concerns for the environment and the community. This is just a short definition of what a data center is. It's much longer than that if you look at the actual legislation, but this is just kind of it in a nutshell. It does house servers and computer equipment, network equipment, and things like that. So our proposal is to break this down into 3 different tiers. Accessory uses, a micro data center, and a large load data center. As you can see, a accessory use would be allowed in commercial districts, warehousing, manufacturing districts by right, and it would also be allowed in an industrial district. But to have a large scale or a micro data center, they would have to go through a conditional use permit. So to put that in perspective, if we have a piece of property that's zoned to agriculture or residential, they would have to first get it rezoned to industrial, go through the hearing process with you all and the Board of Aldermen, then they would come back for a conditional use permit, having a proposal that meets all the criteria in this proposed ordinance, have another set of hearings with the Planning Commission and the Board of Aldermen before it would be approved. And conditional use permits, as you may remember, are non-transferable. So if one property owner gets that zoning, gets that conditional use permit, and they decide they want to sell it to another one, they would have to start over with a conditional use permit. It's not transferable to the next property owner. The first category, accessory uses, they have to be subordinate or have to be accessory to a primary use. They can't occupy more than 20% of the primary building, and it can't, as definition, can stand as a standalone facility. It's not permitted, would not be permitted in a residential district, but it would be permitted in a commercial district, as I said, manufacturing, mixed use. And they're otherwise subject to all the other zoning codes and things like that, as well as building codes, so setbacks and the things that are proposed in the ordinance. Micro center, this is a little bit larger. This is a standalone facility, or if it's in another building, it can't occupy more than 20% of the overall building, and the building itself couldn't exceed 10,000 square feet, and it can't have a power demand of more than 5 megawatts of electricity. Again, these would not be permitted in a commercial, office, warehousing, or general mixed use district, but they would be permitted in an industrial district once they've acquired a conditional use permit. So siting design and operational standards we propose would mitigate noise, other environmental concerns, and things like that. A large load data center, this is the big ones. They could exceed, it could be a primary use of the building. It could exceed a building that's over 10,000 square feet, and they would have a demand, or could have a demand of over 5 megawatts of electricity. Again, they wouldn't be permitted in any of those residential or commercial districts, and they would be permitted in an industrial district for the conditional use permit. And again, the siting design and operational standards that we've proposed would hopefully mitigate any visual issues, noise, and any environmental concerns. So what are those? What are those standards we've proposed? There would have to be a sound study done to, they couldn't exceed 60 decibels at an adjoining property line or another sensitive use. So if we're saying it's a daycare or something like that, regardless of the zoning, if there's a daycare or a nursing home, a school, something like that, and by definition, that's what would be considered a sensitive use. And they couldn't exceed 65 decibels at an adjoining commercial or industrial property line. So before you ask, what is 60 decibels? That's about the sound of an air conditioning unit humming. So you should be able to have a conversation. So at 50 feet away, that's pretty quiet. So those setbacks should address that. Any exterior equipment, mechanical equipment, whether the coolers, chillers, air conditioning units, that type of thing, generators have to be screened, and all of those things have to be pushed back 50 feet away. I think I've got that duplicated in another slide. And two, because most of these you'd expect them to have a backup generator, any testing that goes on with those who are routinely would have to occur during the week between 8 and 5. And of course, that's with the exception to emergencies. Site standards, this is something I think you all asked that was added since the last time you saw it. Micro data center, any data center, micro or large, has to be pushed back 1,000 feet from any other one that exists. So if we get one and then another one, they can't be any closer than 1,000 feet. Again, the standard setback is 50 feet from an adjoining property line, and that's if the adjoining property is also zoned industrial. If it's the adjoining property is residential or one of those sensitive uses, a micro data center would have to be 150 feet back, or a setback of 150 feet. If it's one of those large load facilities, it would have to be 500 feet back from a sensitive use or a residential district. And again, all backup generators and all that equipment has to be screened, and it has to be pushed as a site design to the rear side of the primary building, so the rear of the side of the building. Water and cooling systems, this is a concern. So the best practice is that they're closed loop systems, so they're not constantly drawing water out of the aquifer, out of the city's collections, or not collection system, but distribution system. So this ordinance would require them to all be closed loop systems. Any water that's discharged would have to meet the city's audit. We already have standards for discharge into the city's treatment plant or open ditches, detention, and that type of thing. So they would have to meet those requirements. In addition to that, the conditional use permit, it's not uncommon for data centers to propose a community benefit to offset any concerns. They would have to disclose what they're going to do. Is there going to be an economic impact? How many jobs will they create? Any other type of community benefit in that regard? And what's their electric consumption look like? Will it be subsidizing electricity? Will there have to be infrastructure put in to serve this? And what cost is that to other taxpayers and other ratepayers from an electric standpoint? They would have to do a sound study that met those decibel requirements we talked about. And then there's also a requirement that if the facility ceases to exist, goes out of operation, they have to provide a termination removal plan when that happens. Other environmental concerns they would have to address in that impact report deals with emissions of heat, air quality, water consumption, again, any stormwater discharge. And if they have any lithium batteries or any toxic things like that the building code doesn't cover, how are they going to manage that and store that? So that would be part of that report. One additional thing they would have to address is that they have to have a post-build confirmation study. So 60 days out, the city would give them a temporary C of O. They just have to confirm that they've met all the requirements they put in their conditional use permit and those environmental reports before they would get a permanent occupancy permit report, or a permanent occupancy permit. And then there's ongoing maintenance, ongoing monitoring of those issues, whether it's noise, clean water, that type of thing. So we, as you know, we brought it to you last month. We've taken it to the board once before. We'll have a public hearing with the Board of Aldermen September 21st. And second reading would be October 5th. So I think that's my last slide. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
One question for now. You mentioned the requirement to renew or issue a new conditional use permit if it changed ownership. What other triggers, if any, would require a renewal or even retraction of a conditional use permit?
I would say if they're changing any of the dynamics in their original proposal, they want to expand the facility. They can't meet their noise levels. They can't meet their water discharge requirements. If they want to change how they heat and cool the facility,
Okay.
they would
So
very well trigger the resubmit.
If a year, 2 years, 5 years down the road, if they're no longer meeting the city's requirements for noise, water, whatever, then potentially the city could pull that CUP and
It would really be no different than if somebody's violating the zoning code in another way.
Right.
They're operating a commercial business out of a residential area or something like that. So we would pursue them just the way we do any other zoning violation or nuisance violation.
Okay, that was really what I was getting at. The point, just because you get the COP, the conditional use permit doesn't mean that you keep it forever. If you violate the requirements, you could lose that right. And, okay, thank you.
Adam?
Yeah, and I just wanted the clarification on the noise. It was the measurement point of the decibels is at the property line that it adjoins somebody else, right?
Yes.
Okay. And that would be like all property. It's not like you pick like the furthest part away and we're like, look, it's 60 way down here in the corner. It's like it has to comply with all property lines, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Any other questions? Comments? Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And we'll go ahead and open it up to public discussion if you would like to come forward. Comment. If you do, you need to state your name and address, and you have 5 minutes. Thank you.
Jeannie McFall, 1324 East Warren Avenue. I just have a question on the conditional use permit. We had Liberty took over Empire. So in that particular case, is that a new ownership, and would somebody have to apply again? And the same thing happens with banks all the time. One bank gets bought out by another bank.
I believe they would, yes. I mean, I would have to confirm that, but I think they would have to reapply for a new conditional use permit, yes.
Okay, I'm just concerned about us having some buildings with hazard because they won't be able to get a new conditional use permit.
I have a couple questions for the speaker. I want to make sure I understand your question. So are you asking if existing data center has electricity provided by Empire? And
No,
okay.
no, I'm just saying.
If Empire
like-
has one, has a data center, and
And then Liberty
buys not.
buys Empire,
Right. Okay. And so
or
then,
a bank changes ownership.
right. But you're not saying if a data center is storing data for Bank of America and they start storing data for, Great Southern, they don't have to get it. Okay. I want to make sure I'm on the same
Not
page.
unless Great Southern is the one that applied for the permit.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing no movement, we'll go ahead and close public portion. And any comments or questions from the commission? Patty? Are you good?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Anyone? Susan? Chad?
So I guess I'll just start. I want to thank staff for working on this and bringing this forward and being proactive, because, I guess to reiterate what Randall said earlier, if a data center would come in today, the city would have very limited requirements and conditions that they could put on that, and it would have, in all likelihood, we'd have to move forward with it. So this ordinance is being proactive and specifying. I also agree with the approach that we don't want to just, ban them outright. That we have requirements. If you can meet those requirements on, where it can be located, what it can look like. I think this is the right approach, and I thank staff for doing this, and I'm fully in support of it.
Yes, I'll echo that sentiment. When I was first researching these and looking into them, I had some of my own concerns, but as I read through the proposals and the amendment, all those concerns were resolved, and I really appreciate the amount of effort that was put into addressing these and coming up with a framework for future opportunities and such.
Susan?
So if for some reason that a data center has to pull out after and they've found to left groundwater contaminants, is there provision for long-term monitoring?
I think the best answer is that's probably not something the zoning code would cover. That's probably an environmental, an EPA, DNR type of, there's probably limitations to what zoning probably needs to manage. I think we would probably pursue it from a violation of their conditional use permit, or a violation of, the city has ordinances that regulate, our discharge of water into our treatment plant or into aquifers, streams and that type of thing. So we would probably be right there with DNR or the EPA or something, but it wouldn't be the city only pursuing a violation of that sort. I'd say it's probably bigger government that's going to be after them rather than just the city. So does that answer your question?
Any more? Anybody else? I'd like to go ahead and add my congratulations to those who worked so hard on this. And I think it was a very good move to be proactive, and I appreciate the work. So now, if there are no other questions, we'll go ahead and entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the amendment to the city code based on staff additions and sentiment.
All second.
Okay. Roll call, Megan?
Caleb Berger is absent. Pete Renfro.
Aye.
Trevor Branch.
Aye.
Hallie Goldberg.
Aye.
Adam Brown.
Aye.
Suzanne Daniel.
Aye.
Chad Zickafoose.
Aye.
Jeff Garrison is absent. Lacey Colbert.
Aye.
The ayes have it.
Thank you. And now we go ahead and move to any comments by the commission. Any commissioners have anything they'd like to say? Question?
I'll say one thing if that's okay. I just want to say the new park and the caboose now right by the trailhead it looks awesome. I think it's such a great move by the city. And then also I know for my own son, I love the fact that I know the city put a lot of time to try to show video today of it being moved and stuff like that. I know that was a lot of work. So I just think that the city looks better and better every day. And I think that really looks great and it's a great entrance to the city off that way for people.
Yeah, thank you. Good. Anybody else? Okay, then administrative comments.
I have nothing additional to share, Megan.
No, I don't have any.
What's that? Oh, Mayor? Okay. All right. Then if there are no other comments or questions, then I'm entertaining a motion to adjourn.
So moved. I'll move to adjourn.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
That was a different rainfall today. I was like, I wasn't